right, let's just get through this. Due to holidays and a mistake, I couldn't do last week's Wednesday comics, and so now it was already a big stack of comics, and now it's even bigger. So, I'll get through this as quick as possible. I did tape a show, but I forgot to set the audio on, so it was just footage, and that's it. I guess I could have run with that and just said, look, here's the comics I read. But anyway, here we are. Green Lantern, very quickly. It's good. It's still good. And interested in it going forward. And Green Lantern War Journal, the spinoff, not quite as good. The art is excellent, but there's a similar story here in the power set between John Stewart and Hal Jordan and how it's different and everything. The setup here in this issue 4 was that he had to go into a sort of dreamlike world to recapture his mojo or what have you, and to overcome the infection. He was infected by the space zombie virus, and of course he does. And it's an interesting thing because both he and Hal Jordan, Hal Jordan has this ring that he, through sheer force of will, ignited. And John Stewart didn't need a ring. The power was coursing through him, but now he has one that helps him overcome the threat of the space zombies or that sort of thing. Some of its soap opera aspects kind of derail it somewhat, but so far, so good. And it's a good title. So Green Lantern seems to be doing well these days over at DC. Let's put those down there. Meanwhile, the spinoffs from the New Justice Society don't care for the Green Lantern story, as he is apparently now soliciting gay prostitutes. What else are they going to have him do? But meanwhile, the Flash Jay Garrick is really good, actually. And since I've given up on the Flash proper, I would just assume they just keep doing this series as the Flash. So, more details of this mysterious villain whom they've also forgotten about after Judy was taken out of time, the Boom, and all of that sort of thing. And it basically looks like Doctor Doom, but he's Dr. Elemental. See, it's completely different. And so they're building up to something there. And so far, so good. It's an interesting story. It's a bizarre one because, I mean, she was taken out of time and she's still a teenage girl while her parents are, well, very old. Yes, very old. So, but anyway, a recommend on that one. It's pretty good. I don't know how long this is supposed to last, as it's just a spinoff from the Justice Society, which the Justice Society itself, it's kind of stuck in the mud, and I don't know where it was going. And with Jeff Johns having left, I don't know. Who knows what the plan is? But this one and Sandman of these spinoffs, it's a good, fun read. Meanwhile, Shazam delivers okay. It's a solid title. The only downside is Mark Waid's latest idiot antics probably turns a lot of people away, and that's unfortunate. Even though the man is a colossal a-hole and obviously suffering from some amount of disorder, can do good work. And such was true here in Shazam. But I'll understand if nobody wants anything to do with anything with Mark Waid's name on it. So that's unfortunate. But the work was really good. And, well, what do you got to do? So, surprisingly, I had no interest in the Titans or any of that stuff, and especially another event. But lo and behold, perhaps because this one was somewhat ignored and not really pumped up as much as Dark Crisis and Lazarus Planet and Night Terrors and all that, Beast World, which is, it's a Titan-centric thing because it's Beast Boy, and putting himself out there and doing a very heroic endeavor to save the world, it turns on him and creates yet another disaster for them to deal with. And so far, I'm only 2 issues in, and of course, Ivan Reyes, or Rice, or if I got it wrong, I apologize. Who of course is a fantastic artist. His work on this ends with issue 2, so we'll just have to see how it turns out as it goes. But it's pretty good. Not a big Tom Taylor fan. Best known for Injustice, which is it's interesting, but I wasn't all that blown away about it. And then of course, making Superboy gay and all that. But here, it's just a basic story. There's this threat. They deal with it, and then it creates even more problems unwittingly. And of course, there's evil machinations afoot and all of that. But it's just well done. There's actually finally some good Batman scenes in it, especially concerning him and Nightwing. And so it's only 2 issues, but pretty damn good. So and a clever thing about how they get there and all that. So I know I've said I'm sick to death of events, but I don't know. I just think of it as a story arc in Titans. I don't know how their regular title's doing. Don't really care, but heard good things about it. Check them out, and you know what? It's not bad. It's pretty good. So hopefully it pays off and does well. So anyway, meanwhile, what isn't doing well, sadly, is Batman. Detective Comics has some interesting things to it that I enjoyed. Most notably, they just brought back the Night Quest, Nightfall, whatever you call it, armor that Azrael had used when he, in his brief tenure, being the new Batman and all of that. But the art in here just... I don't know. It's appropriate for horror-like storylines, and there is that since Batman's possessed by a demon in this story. But basically, it's Catwoman to the rescue, and that's about it. But I'm just not blown away by it. Sure, it's cool to see the Azrael armor, but the art's pretty lackluster for it, and just ended up not caring. So that's too bad. So then we head over to Marvel, and they're trying to restore the X-Men after I don't know, they were all engaging in polyamorous relationships or something, and having fashion shows. I don't know, didn't care, couldn't stand any of it. So now there's a reset of some sort, and I guess this little one-shot, I suppose, is supposed to be a start of it. I've always been more partial to the original X-Men. I was never a big X-Men fan. At the time when I was a teenager, it was just flooded with them because they were the big deal. And, of course, Wolverine was the star and all that. But something about the 60s adventures appealed to me, and I liked them. But Bendis had them. This is the same ones, of course, who traveled to the future. And this is where supposedly Jean Grey turned Iceman gay with their mind powers, which would make more sense and more believable if that's how that would happen. But that's not what they did. They just said, oh, she could read his mind and discover it. The thing of it is, after all those decades, the reader could read Iceman's mind because, the thought bubbles. He never had any thoughts about that. But, well, what's done is done. Tee-hee. So, wasn't all that interested. But, again, heard word of mouth that it was, looked like, oh, maybe X-Men's coming back. I don't really see that. This is an okay issue. It's multiverse shenanigans and time travel and all of that. But I guess this is a roundabout way they go about resetting things. I can think of a number of things they should do, but they never will. But this is fine, but I don't really have much interest in it. A lot of damage has been done to X-Men. So wait and see on that. But anyway, I took a peek and wasn't blown away. It's not bad, but didn't bring me back in. Another little title that didn't really know too much about was this latest run on Silver Surfer, Rebirth Legacy. And primarily it's an adventure with him and Captain Marvel's son, Genis Vale, who has a terrible hairdo and a terrible outfit. But other than that, it's an okay character, I suppose. Adam Warlock shows up. A dark, evil-seeming Silver Surfer, or I don't know, Black Surfer from the future who can hold Thor's hammer and all this stuff. Time travel shenanigans here. And then finally the fourth one, which is the most recent I read. This ties into, I believe, that story that John Byrne did for Epic Illustrated, which was the last Galactus story, I think. And so it's interesting. I don't exactly know where they're going with it all. But it's a pretty good run. It's just a basic superhero story. Was never a big Silver Surfer fan. It was mostly his connection with the Fantastic Four and stuff like that. But they're here again. Heard good things about it, and it was true. I think it's a fun superhero run, which is unusual for Marvel Comics these days. And hopefully it continues in that vein. And this can take its place alongside the Hulk and Moon Knight, who hold the title as being the only good titles that Marvel prints these days. So Hulk, continuing on, you've got this other version of Ghost Rider in it, which is interesting, but I guess they're just going with the spirit of vengeance can, I don't know, take over anybody's corpse with a motorcycle. And chase down evil monsters and whatnot. And of course, it's a monster book, and the Hulk battles monsters, and there's a Chupacabra tormenting a town. It's all a part of this monster conspiracy as it goes forward. And so looks like we'll have another Hulk and Ghost Rider team up. Of course, they fight each other in this one, misunderstanding and whatnot, and all that stuff. But it ends on quite a cliffhanger. And so far so good. It's entertaining, and this is an example of the type of horrific graphics used to show the Hulk transforming, which boy, it looks really painful, but it's a horror tinged version of the Hulk, and I think it's great. So how about that? And finally, Moon Knight. Now, where's Moon Knight going to go after this? Now that he's dead. We'll have to wait and see. This issue did leak out, and people suspected it meant that a seemingly lesbian vampire woman of color would be the new Moon Knight. I don't really get that from the end. Having read it now, which probably what you should do is wait and see. She looks to be like she's in charge of the Midnight Mission that Mark Spector had founded. And so that looks to be the case. And noticing that she was wearing the Mr. Knight-like suit, but then so was the other vampire guy. He was doing it. And then it looks like Hunter Moon was in a version of it, only it was all in black. I think it means Hunter Moon will be the ongoing Moon Knight. Looks like he pumps up some steroids in the new costume, which again is all mostly black now. So I think he'll be Moon Knight for the time being until they find out that Mark didn't die in that explosion. There's no body. So he'll be found. Probably Zodiac might have something to do with it because he was upset about him not having the honor of actually killing Moon Knight and that sort of thing. It set him at odds with the Black Spectre. So just for that, the issue itself was okay and pretty good. But it just depends on, oh no, what are they going to do with the series going forward when it had been probably for a time the only thing worth reading out of Marvel. But hopefully it's not going to be dashed by the new Moon Knight title. So we'll just have to check it out and see. But so anyway, there we go. Moon Knight, rest in peace until, of course, you resurrect as superheroes do in comic books. So, Independence, I've always been a fan of Hellboy. Uh, I had dipped out of it for a while just because I forgot. I mean, the main story is over, but these are stories that took place in his past and stuff like that. But it's almost always a solid read. And here, he gets to be a giant robot, and so I think it's 3 issues in all, maybe more. I don't know, but I read the first 2, and that's about it. He's a giant robot attacking giant monsters, and well, what more do you want? Well, there's a little cute secret agent girl in a motorcycle outfit, so there's that. So anyway, I enjoyed it. It's fine, and we'll get back to that at a later date. Finally, this one I didn't get a chance to read the original Geiger series, and this seems to be something of a reboot of it or a restart for Ghost Machine, which Jeff Johns is going into full steam after I think leaving DC Comics. I don't think he'll be writing for them in the near future, or maybe I got that wrong. But anyway, he's going hard on this. He's got a whole team assembled and everything of a new universe of these characters and whatnot. It's a sad, tortured tale. It's not bad. There's some cool elements to it. I don't know if this is a complete reboot of it or a retelling of it, or if it takes place within the events of the original. I don't know. But because this one seems like quite the starting point of it. So it's interesting, and all that. There's some things about, well, rednecks are bad people. Got to stop and think about that, in the midst of radioactive wastelands. But nevertheless, it has a lot of cool atmospherics to it. And of course, Gary Frank's art is absolutely excellent. And so we'll be keeping an eye on that. But so far here, the big surprises was Silver Surfer, Green Lantern's holding strong, and the Titans was a surprise to me. So there we are. We're caught up now. And we'll see what happens next Wednesday here on Mr. Nelson's Wednesday Comics. Yeah.